I'm very curious to learn from you because I've tried to learn, but I've not learned as quickly as you have about all this. You may be behind the Atlantis conspiracy. I don't know.
Oh, that
Yeah,
would be a first.
that would be
Counter to intelligence.
Welcome to Counter to Intelligence. I'm Ken, and with me is my counterpart.
Tom.
Yeah, that's you.
Okay,
Yeah.
checking. Yeah,
Yeah. You weren't sure. Like, I didn't say best friend because the last time I did that, it just threw you off your game.
that's true.
So,
But now not saying it threw me off my game. So I
oh,
maybe
see.
I'm just never going to be on my game.
Yeah, true. Well, you're kind of like a dog. Like, once you feed them, they expect it. So, like I said, best friend. So you expect it. Then I called you something new, and now you're like, wait, is this a treat or not? And then,
Oh, that's exactly how I was. Yeah, I was like salivating like Pavlov and everything. It was bad.
yeah, yeah. So this week we're going to dive into Atlantis,
Yes.
pun intended.
Oh,
And
good one.
so Atlantis is a cool one. Like it's like kind of crazy. So I thought we'd go over the original, like what Plato is the one who originally told the story
Yes.
of
Yeah.
Atlantis. And he claimed basically it was according to Plato, Atlantis was a large island located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which everyone thinks is the Strait of Gibraltar.
Yeah.
Uh, and he got this story from some Egyptian priests. Okay, so there's a connection there. Egypt, these Egyptian priests told him the stories. So people, it's inland Atlantic. It was a highly advanced civilization with concentric rings. So there was a center ring, then all these rings outside. And the central palace was dedicated to Poseidon, the god of the sea. It had a powerful military, but according to the myth, it was corrupted by greed and all this stuff. So Poseidon sank it. And the waves came and basically a tsunami hit. Um, and
Poseidon
it
just unhappy.
Yeah, and it is supposed to be pretty big. It was a pretty big landmass, so it wasn't like a small area. It was a pretty big area. Um, it was ruled by, now this is where it gets really interesting. Its original king was a guy named Atlas, and it's King Atlas. And some of the descriptions of it were that it was near, you could see the mountains of Atlas from Atlantis,
Okay.
and which the mountain range was named after this guy who was a Titan king. So he's a big deal. And it's interesting because a lot of times you hear about these mythological people like Gilgamesh and all these other,
Right.
and as society goes, we find out, oh, wait, these were real people. Like at one point, Alexander the Great, people didn't really think he was real, he was mythical. Same with like Troy, the city of Troy and the Trojan War. It was mythical, and then they found it. And so this guy, King Atlas, a lot of people think, oh, he's just mythological, but there is a mountain range named after him. It's the Atlas Mountains.
Yeah.
And uh, and according to the mythology and the story, you could see the Atlas Mountains from Atlantis. So that's kind of a key to some of this.
Right. So it means
Uh,
they're in the valley, is how you would, right? Is that how
Yeah,
you're?
well, there's a kind of, they're surrounded by water, and so they have a bay and all that. Um, so that those are some key things that are part of it that, like, I think helps, like, with where is Atlantis, what is Atlantis. So then it kind of rules out some places really quickly.
Right.
But I want, like, do you know, you like you said, you were telling me you watched the thing in National Geographic. Where were some of the places that they were saying?
Well, one was the Minoans, they originally, because they were an advanced civilization.
Yeah,
And
and they're off of Crete, right?
right,
Like,
but they were too far to the east. That was the
yeah,
problem with them. So
yeah,
they
they're, yeah,
started
exactly.
in
Yeah,
other
they're the
places.
island that they're known. And you can go there and you could see it used to be a huge island, and I think it was a volcanic eruption destroyed them.
Yes, that's it,
Yeah,
because that fits with the story, right? That something happened
yeah,
and there was no more.
and like and that's a cool one because they also they worship Poseidon.
Right.
And they have the bulls, and which is a big deal. I don't understand the deal with bulls and Poseidon, since he's the god of sea, and bulls somehow had something to do. And I think the Minoans are also where you got the Minotaur stories
Yes.
of, and
Half
so
man. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Whatever that is, bull.
yeah, and so that was one, but that kind of gets ruled out because one, like you said, it's too far to the east, and also you can't see the Atlas Mountains from Minoan.
Right.
Yeah, they cannot. So that we have to rule that one
So
out.
that one's gone. So that rational explanation is gone. There's got to be one that makes sense, though. This is one where I'm actually on your side. I feel like something happened that Plato was writing about, right? We
Yeah.
just don't know what it was.
Now the other one is another place is Santorini.
Yes, that was the other one.
That was another one. I think that's the Minoans. That's what the place was called.
Right.
Another is the Azores Islands, Azores.
Yeah.
And they're outside. They're in the Atlantic, right? But they were devastated by some kind of volcano. But again, they're past the Straits of Gibraltar, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
I might have to pull up Google Map, but I think you're right. I'm looking at one here. I think that's right.
And but again, there you can't. This one of the descriptions again was the Atlas Mountains.
Right.
You can't see that from there. Another place is Spirti. It's near the Straits of Gibraltar, and it's a submerged landmass. And some people, again, it could possibly be. Another is the Canary Islands.
Yeah.
That's
I'm looking
another
at
one
the map now.
they look at because again, there's a lot of volcanic activity.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw this one in because we mentioned this in our last episode when we talked about the Bermuda Triangle is the Bimini Road, which is, or it's also called the Bimini Wall. It's near the island of Bimini. And it looks like a roadway, but that's all that's there is this one supposed roadway, but I think it's made, I said it was sandstone. I was wrong. It's called beach rock, which is also very soft and can be, whatever, manipulated by tides and water. So a lot of people, it's a natural thing.
Yeah.
And another place, I don't know if the National Geographic went over this because I may have seen this one. It's in Spain. It's called Cadiz, Spain. And in 2011, some researchers found there's ruins in this marsh area, and the imagery shows kind of like a circular city. They're still doing research on it, but it's in the Donana, Donana, and it has a little squiggly thing over the first N, National Park. And the interesting thing is some of the stuff that they found there, some pottery and stuff, has bowls on it, which is interesting, which is, again, goes like the Minoans had the bowls, and that had some kind of thing with Poseidon was these bowls, like the bowls as in the horn things, not like a bowl of soup. But just so people know what I'm talking about, because like if they're hearing me say bowls, they may be like, what do bowls have to do with anything? I mean like bowls, like fighting a bull.
Right. Like we do. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, well, I don't do that because I'm friends to all animals.
Bulls are my arch enemy, especially when I'm in Spain, which I've never been. So I can't go because I have to fight.
Yeah. Now, another interesting thing on this, in the one in Spain, and I used to, this is the one I used to think it was it. I was hooked on, I was thinking it was this place in Spain.
Is this also called Tortesos? Is that the name? Because that's the one I think is it.
Well, I mean, maybe. This is like they were able to find pollens or microscopic remains.
Oh, wow.
And that showed that there was a people group there like 7,000, 8,000 years ago.
Okay.
So they knew there was life there besides finding some pottery. But so some people think that. Now, what's interesting, like you get these different like ideas of Atlantis. And was it Atlantis? Because there is some cool stuff where you find that there are other civilizations that are cities that disappeared. Obviously, Minoan was gone. There's also another place in Greece called Pavlopatri, which was destroyed by volcano. You have Pompeii.
Yeah, Pompeii, I think too.
You got this is in Japan, is Yonganui, which was a city off of like there was an island off the coast of Japan that just disappeared, and they found the structures underwater. It's completely submerged now. Then in Hindu mythology, there was a place called Dwarka. Again, it was another city that was swallowed by the sea. And then in Mayan mythology, there's one called Mu, M-U, and they have this story of this place that went to all these civilizations. So it's a common theme of civilizations disappearing.
Yes.
And so I think it's kind of like the worldwide flood isn't just in the Bible. It's in there's multiple stories of a worldwide flood. And yeah. So there's a consistent story of these. Could it all be the same place? Could it, and it's just being retold over and over, or just obviously, you have multiple storms throughout the world, and so multiple places just built their house on sand instead of rock.
You would think they would learn. Like there's enough stories of these civilizations disappearing that are apparently very advanced. You would expect them to maybe be in that advanced, kind of learn from it. Maybe we don't put the city on the volcano.
Yeah, maybe you don't do that, and maybe they weren't as advanced as we think. They didn't have GPS or AccuWeather.
Right. Where's their AccuWeather? I need to hear from the newscasters daily to know what the weather's like. I can't just look outside. Like they probably keep that. How unsophisticated.
Oh, look, the sun's up. It's sunny today. Yeah, but guess what? That could turn like that.
That's right. Now, you like the weather telling rock? Have you ever seen those? Sometimes you'll see them at like the store. Yeah, it's like you look at
if it's wet.
If it's wet, it's raining. This is great.
Yeah, that's all you need. Now here's an interesting one that I found. Like one story is that Antarctica used to be Atlantis, and then it was swallowed by a sea, then overfrozen. This was kind of popular in the 1960s and 70s. There was a guy named Charles Hapgood, and he wrote a book in 1958 called Earth's Shifting Crust. And he proposed that the Earth's crust moved, which we kind of know it does. And that this was go back to Pangea, that Antarctica got moved down.
Right.
And that in the thing, and it was, one time a fertile thing. Now, have you ever heard of the Perry-Rees map?
Oh, no, nothing. I have not.
Oh, you're going to love this.
You have a picture? Should I look it up?
You can look it up, and I'll put a picture up for those who watch the YouTube version. But the Perry-Rees map, and it's interesting that this map was made in 1513. Okay, and so what you see on it is you see Africa, you see Europe, and the Mediterranean. Then you see parts of the Caribbean, and you see parts of South America, and then it goes down and it shows parts of Antarctica.
Yeah, I'm
that
looking.
We don't like. Antarctica wasn't discovered at that point. No one talked about it there. But if you look at the map, there are drawings like in the Africa, you see elephants, and in Europe, you see horses. In parts of Africa, you see camel. You see pictures of animals. Yeah. And then you get down to the Antarctica, and there are animals on it. And now there are some you can find where, because there's stuff, it's written, I think, in Spanish or some. I can't remember. I think it's Spanish or Portuguese. It's written out with descriptions, and I've seen the translated version. There's one that has it, and it has the stuff written in English, and it's describing these animals in these people group that we knew existed, and we know existed in those areas. And then in the Antarctic part, it describes animals and a people group, and it's really bizarre. And
pretty accurate then.
Yeah, it's accurate on all these others. Then you get Antarctica, and it's really confusing. Like what happened, what was going on 1513 that this guy drew this map, and like you say, if you look at the coastline, it's really accurate to what was there. It's a bizarre thing, but like a lot, some theories then came that that Antarctica was Atlantis. But I disagree. Again, it falls outside of, although, to get to it, you'd have to go to the Straits of Gibraltar, but it's too far away from where the Atlas Mountains are and all this other things that you were supposed to be able to see. And I think it was too far for that time period, but maybe not like that, because it was a big trade area in the stories. They were wealthy. It was a wealthy thing. I think going all the way down to Antarctica, that's a big thing, pretty far to be trading with this culture.
What would you trade? I mean, unless you're getting seals or something.
Yeah. So that leads me to this last place, which is called the Rickshaw structure.
Have you heard of this one? Okay.
All right, this one, and I'm going to show you a picture. Let me see if I can share my screen with you. Boom. So you should be able to see it.
Wait, that's a crop circle.
No, on the left is the rickshaw structure. I'm probably saying it incorrectly. On the right is what they describe Atlantis as looking like.
That's very similar.
Like, notice the center, the concentric like circles. There's an area you can see. You can actually, if you go on Google Earth and type that in, you can see an above shot of this area. Now, the interesting thing about this place, it is outside. It is in Africa. Okay, it's in the Sahara Desert. It's actually also called the Eye of the Sahara. So you can also type in Eye of Sahara because it's a very odd looking thing.
It is.
I'm going to stop sharing so I can get back, so I can tell you some things about that are fascinating. The Rickshaw structure is in Mauritania. It's also known as the Eye of the Sahara, which I said, and it has been proposed as the Lost City of Atlantis. The theory is based on the structure's circular shape, the concentric rings, and the central peak in the center, which are similar to what was described. Plato described also that you described all those things and that it was within about 5,000 kilometers of Athens. That's one of the things he said. That's how far away it was. And this place is about 5,000 kilometers away from Athens. Now, to get to it, you would have to go outside of the Straits of Gibraltar, and you would go to the south. Right. Now, you can see there's archaeological evidence that shows at one point this area had water. There was water there. There was also, they said at one point, there was a massive tsunami of some kind that went in and just washed this area out.
Right.
And so, again, that fits with the story. The other interesting thing about this thing is scientists and archaeologists found on the outer rings of the place, they found spearheads, pottery, and ship anchors. So and this is pretty far in, and like we said, Plato learned the story of Atlantis from the Egyptians. In Mauritania, you could, if the people fled, any survivors could have gone to Egypt because, they just would have headed east.
You're blowing my mind right now. So this all connects because it was inland. It shouldn't have been there. It was there.
Yeah. Now here's a really cool, interesting idea or weird thing. The CIA was interested in this area for whatever reason. And I think Trump now needs to release these files because I just found this out. I didn't know this, but they had files on the Rickshaw structure from 1965. They were looking into this place, but they didn't explain why. They just called it a geomagnetic anomaly. There was something going on that there was a geomagnetic anomaly happening, and the CIA was looking into this area.
Wow.
But it's all redacted, and we don't know why. So I think it's another one that needs to be released. Like, why were they looking into this area? Because right now, I don't think we're not at war with Mauritania, and there's no reason why they couldn't release what this was about, why they were looking into this.
Unless Elvis is alive there. I mean,
But if you look at that structure, and Now, some people say, oh, it was a natural thing, but when they go there, people, the geologists and stuff, they're like, yeah, this at one point was underwater. It was something came and washed in, and they don't know. And there's some archaeologists who want to, like, because there's a wash way out into the ocean, and they want to go dive down and look into the water, which would be far away. But they're like, if it pulled things out, there might be artifacts down there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that would really, corroborate it.
Yeah. But I that's the one that, like, I used to think it was in Spain, but this one is the one that, like I recently found out, like, a couple of years ago about it. And as I read more and then saw the pictures, I was like, holy cow, that is crazy.
That is great, because I thought it was the Spain, the Iberian Peninsula one, Tessa something it's called. It's at least one name for it. That's what I thought too, because I'm like, okay, it's by the Atlas Mountains. It kind of makes sense. It is a real place. Like, it would have made sense. It's to the west.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of them. Yeah. And that was one I used to believe. And I also, like I said, the Spain one, because you would have had to go out the Strait of Gibraltar and to get to this one. So those were the ones and then when I saw this and saw the pictures, I was just like, that is crazy. And then the idea that was the Egyptians that told Plato Mauritania's not far from Egypt.
Right.
So, like, if Egypt was trading with this area and then all of a sudden it's gone, they would know, hey, their
trade's done. Yeah.
Yeah. And they probably wouldn't have said it was the god Poseidon. It would have been one of their gods, but then that Plato translated it to Poseidon, because he's like, well, your gods aren't real, mine is. So,
right.
So, you may have called him, like, Waterman, but his name's Poseidon. Aquaman.
Obviously. It depends on. So do you think that's a predecessor of the Marvel Universe? That's basically where trilogy started.
Well, wait. Since you brought that up, are you ready for the listener's question?
Oh, I am ready for the listener's question.
Because that kind of, like, falls into what we have. So we have a listener here named Will, and he heard we are going to be talking about, and I'll put this on the thing, but I'm going to put up so you can hear it.
Wait, it's a real person. We have a real listener.
Yeah. So he had a question about Atlantis, because he heard we were doing Atlantis, and so he said, hey, I have a question. So hopefully you can hear it. Let me see.
Hey, Tom and Ken, when did mermaids become part of the Atlantis mythology?
Did you hear that?
I did. When did mermaids become part of the Atlantis mythology?
See, now, like, people, that's one of the, like, story. Oh, they all went underwater and somehow they immediately became fish people.
Right.
Which, evolution, if you believe in that, doesn't happen that quick.
It takes a little longer. Yeah.
Yeah. So a few people would have had to die, and eventually one's like, hey, you know what? I think I need gills and a tail. And then,
that's how evolution happens. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, I mean, that's the story. I'm not poo-pooing. I'm just saying that's
right. I'm just amazed that people be self-aware. Like, I need some gills. I need to evolve.
And I need a tail.
I need a tail.
And I need shells for my chest if I'm female.
If you're female, right. And I need a movie and red hair.
Yeah.
And a thing of wob that makes me.
Now, Hans Christian Andersen, like, so do you know when mermaids became a part of the tale of Atlantis?
I am about to, I think, but I did not know.
Well,
yeah.
I started looking into it. I was like, well, maybe it's Hans Christian Andersen's A Little Mermaid, but no, it's not. That's not the name. The name of the town or city that Ariel comes from is Atlantica, not Atlantis.
Right.
Atlantica. And he does not in any way bring Atlantis into it. He did, like, in his story, there's no Atlantis isn't part of it. It's just mermaids. So mermaids existed for like, the stories of mermaids have existed for probably as long as Atlantis. There's always been stories of mermaids and all that. So they've always believed that they were there and all that. But I did research. I could not find an exact story that started it all, but apparently mermaids did not become a part of the story until, and I had my paper here, they did not come in associated with Atlantis until the latter part of the 19th century. And it really didn't take hold until, like you brought up, Marvel and Aquaman. And so it wasn't really the big thing wasn't until Aquaman came and Namor. And Namor is like the Aquaman version of in Marvel. And so they were the kings of Atlantis. And so that's really when Atlantis became a part of the whole, or mermaids became a part of the whole Atlantis thing. So I thought, like, which is an interesting question, like when that happened and why. Like,
yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like, what?
I think it's just because it's a cool story, but like they think, like, I guess in their mind that Atlantis just sunk straight down and stayed completely intact, and somehow all the people survived it and turned into fish people. But the weird thing is Poseidon, all his daughters were fish people. So Poseidon had the nymphs, and like the sirens were all his children.
They just
And so they were part of his life, but they didn't live in Atlantis. They lived with him, and he actually in the movie Splash, like the mermaid comes out on land and she can walk, and that's kind of like how sirens were and all that. They could come on land and they could look human. And like in the Little Mermaid, she was cursed or given the gift of feet, in which, you know, she couldn't just do that. But you know, Splash was more like how original mermaids were, where they could come on land, but if you got them wet, they would revert back.
So they walk among us. So what you're saying?
Yeah, they could what?
Like, I should test my wife and daughter. I should like throw water on them. And you know,
see what happens. I would like you, not so much your wife, but throw water on your daughter, because I think your wife might beat you up.
She would. Yeah. She's probably thinking about how to beat me up now, even.
Actually, your daughter could beat you up too.
She's pretty tough.
Athlete.
Yeah, she is an athlete. She would kick me with her soccer feet. And
maybe throw the water, then shut the door. And then look through the window.
Door. Got it.
Yeah, look through. Well, like, did you ever, like in the movie Splash, you'd be like Eugene Levy going around spraying people with water in New York and get beat up multiple times.
I'm thinking, I got people at the office I got some questions about. So you know.
And well, that's the thing, is like, if they're a mermaid, they'll lose their legs. If they're a witch, they'll just melt.
Water's really useful. I hadn't thought about this before.
Yeah. It's also good if you get it blessed, then it's also good against vampires and werewolves. It won't kill werewolves, but it'll piss them off. But then you know they're a werewolf. So if you throw water on somebody and they get really angry, you're like, you are a werewolf. So then
I'm gonna do this tomorrow. I think I'm gonna do this tomorrow.
Yeah, and you know, and before you do that, I'd update your resume.
Yeah, it's true.
Get it on LinkedIn.
I might get a letter from Elon Musk that says you can resign or have 8 months. I don't know.
Yeah. You could get one of those fun emails. You know, resign tomorrow and get paid for 7 months, and then, you know, I haven't gotten that email.
I haven't either, but it would almost be worth it if I could detect a werewolf, if you think about it.
Well, like if you get that, that's immediately when you have to go do it.
Yeah.
Like, if you get like reply, I accept, and then just go throw water on somebody.
Right. And then video it, because if we could get some clicks on it, right, you could sell the proof, right? We could sell the video, actual werewolf seen in office.
So I'm back to Atlanta cell.
Yeah, we should go back.
You actually think it's a real place then? This is like going to be one of the few things that we probably both agree on. That's crazy.
I mean, I don't know if it sunk, like you said, straight down and they all live like that.
No, I don't think it did. See that? Well, because that's where I say there's no way mermaids are involved, because in the stories it was completely destroyed.
Yes,
like just like wiped out. It wasn't like happily going under, and all the people are like, we can breathe water now. And
somehow I think that's not possible. But I feel like I trust Plato. I feel Plato knew. Some argue that it's an allegory, but I think even if he meant it as an allegory, I feel like he was referencing some place that he thought was an advanced civilization.
Right. And he was like, if it was just an allegory, he didn't have to explain that he got the story from Egyptian priests.
Right.
And he didn't have to be as descriptive as he was. He was very descriptive on location,
Yeah.
on like he could just make. And once there was a city named Atlantis, and
Right.
they were very smart and blah 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 blah
Right.
blah blah. Like it's like a parable.
Right.
Like, and then this happened.
Yeah.
But he was very detailed on location, on what like you get to the thing like to the point like who the king of the place was,
Right.
who and there's mountains named after it, and you could see the mountains. It was past this area. It was this, and like,
Yeah.
and
You don't need that if it's just an allegory. I feel
yeah,
like
it's a
he
lot
was
of detail.
referencing something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, again, I don't believe all the mythology about it, but I feel like there is some place out there that he's referencing. I feel like there's multiple possibilities. So yours is really compelling. Pompeii, I always thought, I don't know if the timeline lines up for Pompeii. Did you look
Yeah, it
into
happened after Plato.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And that didn't get sunk into the water, and that
Yeah.
was just destroyed by a volcano. And
right. That was another National Geographic. That's the source of truth, obviously, on my side,
Nice.
National Geographic.
yeah,
They have the square. It must be correct.
Well, you stepped it up. I mean, your source of truth used to be Wikipedia, so this is a step in the right direction.
This is great. I don't know what comes next. Like, do
I don't know. Like, I mean,
PBS. I don't. Yeah.
I know when you like, I went to the Library of Congress, and
I should do that. I should go there. Maybe it's under the Library of Congress. I don't know. They
Yeah,
have
that's where
tunnels up
Atlantis
there.
is.
Did you know they have all these tunnels, like all the Senate and the House? That whole area is like
They're like little hideaways. Did you?
Yeah.
There is a theory that there is a tunnel system that goes from DC out to Camp David,
Oh, that'd be really cool.
like for the White House, like almost like a subway system to get the president out of the White House.
There is a for real subway system there that's just for the Capitol.
Yeah.
Like, that's
There is. For the like the president and vice president to get them. It is to get them to places, but some people say it goes all the way to Camp David.
That would be amazing if it did.
And I don't. We may get in trouble for saying that, but I think it's common. I'm not that's common knowledge, but I didn't just. I've heard this multiple times, so somebody else said it first.
Well, there used to be one. It was documented. They admitted it. They got on a train to go to the Greenbrier in West.
Mhm.
It's like a real place, and there's a bunker there, and it's a real thing. They actually give tours of it now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've never been. I've been to the Greenbrier. I've never taken the bunker tour. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, we should do the bunker tour.
Yeah, it's a bank door. It's basically you need a new front door. This bank door, that's how you get to the Greenbrier. You have to like turn the bank.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
So I guess we're both saying Atlantis. Something existed.
Something is there. I feel like
I am personally, I am dead set. It's got to be I believe now. Like I believe different places, but this one really, unless something comes up and we find some great like archaeological evidence from one of the other places, I think this one takes it. Because like if you really go into like, I didn't get into a bunch of detail, but also the time frame of when the place they know when it was destroyed. They can look at like how the geology and it fits that it would have. I think one of the things he described is the time, like how many years it like. I think it was something like 5,000 years before.
Right.
He told the story, and they know now they can look at when this tsunami hit this area, hit in that time period. They're able to find, like, I don't know how they did it, but they're like saying this is when this came in, and we know this and this and this, and it fits the time frame. And so it's like, I'm going to say that
kind of adds up. It kind of adds up. I mean, any of those places seem feasible to me. I feel like it has to be real. I don't know which one's the right one, but I don't think he would just make up a random place. Like, I think he was trying to reference something real to make a point, right?
True. So I think we've put this one to bed.
We have the answer. We should, can we sell tours to the place?
I would like to.
It is.
Yeah. Or just sell tours to my house and I'll show pictures.
Oh, that's even better. You have the museum rope. I've seen it used before. So
so I could just have a picture up and have the, give tours into my living room and show that. And maybe I'll put on like little fish costume.
Oh, you should definitely be a fish for this.
Yeah. Well, and I got the pool in the backyard and I can like splash around.
Yeah, and you got the Poseidon, like you get the gigantic muscle suit or something.
Well, I already have that.
Sorry. Just be yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just get real close to the camera, and it looks like
actually
I'm really 10 feet away.
For our listening audience, you should know that Ken is enormously muscular.
Yeah. So what is the next theory we should hit?
Did we talk about Bigfoot?
No. Oh, you know what? This kind of will bring Bigfoot into it. But now I don't want to steal this away from you because I do have theories on Bigfoot. But have you heard of the missing 411 thing?
No, I want to hear about
Okay, this is and it does kind of involve Bigfoot, but it's a guy wrote this book, and I can't remember his name, but I'll bring it if we do it, and I'll let you choose. But it's about people who go to national parks or go hiking in well-known areas, and oftentimes with friends and family and groups, and then it'll be like, hey, I'll be right back, I need to get something, and then they are never seen again.
Wow.
They just vanish. And it's hundreds of people in national parks that this guy researched, and some of them do involve Bigfoot sightings, some involve like paranormal sightings, but also like these people vanish, and sometimes, and some are never seen again, but they'll find their clothes. Ooh. Or there'll be like a little kid who vanished and then is found 10 miles away in a weird place that there's no way this kid could have climbed into this area. Right. And yet they're found.
We should do this next week, I think.
Do you want to do the 411?
I want to do the 411. I really need 411 on the 411.
Okay, and there is some Bigfoot, and then I think the week after we go straight into Bigfoot because there is some Bigfoot stuff involved in the 411. Right. So if you go in, just so you can do your research, Google missing 411. There's a couple books on it. There's also some YouTube videos on it. But
I'm really fascinated with that because I definitely could foresee people getting lost in a national park.
Yeah. But I mean, a lot of it, it's like, but the thing is, a lot of it, and I don't want to go into it too much because because I don't want to give it away. There's some really bizarre stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll do that. We'll do that missing for one next week, and the week after we'll do the theories on Bigfoot.
That'll be awesome. Do you have the answers to 411 or are you?
No, I don't.
Atlantis, you had the answers.
I have a lot of theories, but I don't know. And that's one of the ones that I like about it because I cannot figure out what's going on.
All right. So, I'm excited to dig into this. I had not heard of that, and now I don't want to go to a national park, but then I
don't either. But I would say I don't want to go alone, but some of these people weren't alone.
Right. They just disappeared.
And that's where it gets bizarre.
Magically.
So, and again, a lot of these people, another thing about it, no, I'm not going to get in one day.
Nope. Next week.
Come back next week.
Audience, you're going to have to come back next week. Maybe I will wear a hat next week for the viewing audience. I wonder which audience is bigger, the podcast or the viewing, because obviously you're enormous on the podcast and you look and you're regular sized on the actual YouTube. So
well, I think what it is, I actually, according to the numbers, the audio podcast is way more popular.
Oh no, okay. And we have a bona fide Arbitron rated listener or whatever they call it.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Nielsen rated something.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question about missing 411 or that idea, send us your question because we enjoyed answering that.
We like to answer all the questions, right? Yeah. We can be the source of truth for everyone.
Or a source.
A source, yeah.
Of something.
Half a source? I don't know.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. Well, I'll let you go, and I thank you coming, and those are listening or watching or whatever it is. Thanks for coming in and checking Counter to Intelligence. Keep checking us. Check on the Instagram page as well. And as I said, check YouTube and on Spotify and all the other fun places that podcasts are given away free. So there you go.
All right. Come see us for free.
Yeah. See you.
See you.